Hey everybody, as usual, I hope this video finds everybody doing well and in good spirits. I want to get right into this video because I want to perhaps lend a little support to ex-elder's wife Jane Doe and her channel, because as of late she's been doing some really phenomenal work regarding the Bible and things like that. And I understand that there's a lot of people that will not comprehend what it is that she's getting to. And it's that level of comprehension that I want to talk a little bit about. You know, having been doing this work against the Watchtower Bible Craft Society for about 8 years now, Kim and I field the same question over and over and over and over again. Why can't my JW family see this? Why can't they break through the mental block? It's so simple to see, but why can't anyone else see it? Why can't my family see it? In fact, Kim and I, we've even relayed this experience to this audience multiple times, that even when we were waking up, we were showing some of the things in Watchtower literature to my mother-in-law, and she readily acknowledged it. I see, I don't know what it means, but I see it. And so you got to ask, what is that mental block? Why is it even there? Well, there again, fear is a big factor in this, because people are afraid to admit that they might see something that others don't because of what the consequences are going to be. And waking up from some of the things in the Bible can be very disturbing. You know, it's not an easy question to answer unless you're able to answer certain questions within yourself first. You know, it's like the Bible says, train your perceptive powers. Well, how do you train your perceptive powers? There's only one way of doing this. You have to have a vast amount of information. You have to be a researcher. You have to be a studier. You have to be willing to look at multiple sides of an issue to be able to have this training. And once you do receive this, you're going to be able to see things readily that others are not going to be able to see. Okay? For instance, any of you ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, if you still have this book on your shelf, The Greatest Man Who Ever Lived, go to story number 91. When when Lazarus is resurrected. Take a look at the picture. Jesus resurrecting Lazarus. What do you not see? You don't see the word sex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this lay for now, put this down, and hopefully at the end of the video, if we remember, we'll do another colored in picture of where the word sex is. Now, how many times on the congregation level did we all read that chapter? Well, we read it and studied it, allegedly, when we were preparing for the meeting. We went to the meeting, was still looking at the same picture, but yet that word sex never jumped out at anybody, because we just didn't train our subconscious to become conscious so that we can physically see what's in front of us. And don't expect everyone else to see it. Even when it's colored in, point blank, you can see it. There will still be those that say, I don't see it. And then you're going to find that they're going to contend with you. Oh, but Mike and Kim, don't do anything about subliminal images because it's a subjective issue. That very well could be. But there again, a lot of the stuff that myself and Jane Doe has done regarding the Bible, others can't see it. But it's as plain as the nose on anybody's face. A case in point, Luke chapter 11, verse 1. I've already pointed this out, but it wasn't obvious until we went back and slowed down and looked at what's been in front of our eyes the entire time, but our brain overlooked it. Now, verse 1, on the occasion of his being in a certain place praying, when he stopped, a certain one of his disciples said to him, Lord, okay, quote, Lord, teach us how to pray just as John taught his disciples, end quote. Verse 2, then he, being Jesus, said to them, quote, when you pray, say. Now there's another quote. So you have a quote within a quote. Father, let your name be sanctified. Let your kingdom come, blah, blah, blah. Get down to the end of verse 4 and you have the closing quotes. So you have a quote within a quote. So the Lord's Prayer was never uttered from the mouth of Jesus. He's repeating John the Baptist's prayer. How come we never noticed that? How come? Because it was hiding in plain sight. Because none of us have ever been taught by our religious nut jobs to pay any attention to the quotation marks. We just weren't taught to do that. But when your mind is open to this, we should be paying more than the usual attention. But how many of us actually do? Here again, how come I can't get my Jehovah's Witness family to see this? How come I can't? But yet, when work like this is done, exposing the quote within a quote, how many of you XJWs will say, I can't wake up my family no matter what I show them, but yet you refuse to see what's right here in black and white, the quote within a quote. But see, you won't give that up because the implications might be too fearful, maybe too heavy of a burden to deal with. So do you find yourself ignoring what's in front of your eyes, just like your indoctrinated Jehovah's Witness family? You know, you might be able to show them what Jeffrey Jackson said at the ARC. Why? That would be presumptuous. I don't see it. Or somebody might even say, yeah, I heard that. That made me a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to stick with Jeffrey Jackson anyways. There's a huge disconnect in the way we perceive things. And a lot of these things that we've grown up with and now perceive are just a reflection on our childhood. That's really all that is. Are we allowing ourselves to break through that indoctrination? And ultimately, your brain does fill in what you consciously cannot see or subconsciously cannot see. So what I want to do is just go back just a little bit. I've read from my Holy Bible Revised Standard Version in the beginning, the preface. The Revised Standard is a revision of the 1901, which is a revision of the 1611 King James. Yet, the King James Version has grave defects. Okay, so if you have a King James Version of the Bible, what I'm about to read to you will make no sense. It'll make no sense at all. So if you're going to follow along with the Bible, I would prefer you follow along with either the New World Trash Translation or the Revised Standard. Because both of these Bibles, and I've checked, do the same thing. And this is what we've all missed. We overlook this, but I want to impress how our brain will fill in something that's not there. Just as equally as your brain will fill in a half mirror image. Because my wife and I, we've done this same type of work on this channel, only it's video 10, video 11, video 300, we don't know. But there's a lot of artwork coming from the Watchtower Society that you can take a mirror and it'll complete the entire face. So even though your brain might just see half of it, or your eye will see half of it, your brain will fill in the whole thing. That's how this works. It's playing on your subconscious, but yet at the same time, the very Bible, Jehovah's Witnesses, that you read from, you do the same thing. And once your brain works in this way, it becomes obvious. It becomes obvious as black and white, day and night, in and out. Go to Deuteronomy. Chapter 22, I'm going to read part of what Jane Doe did because we discussed this real recently and she didn't even catch part of what's happening here. Now, it's a foregone conclusion that in the Christian world, the first 5 books of the Bible were written by Moses and in the wilderness, and in particular, Deuteronomy was written in the plains of Moab. But before we read what I want to read in chapter 22, let's go back to chapter 1 and look at what it says. Verse 1, these are the words that Moses spoke to all Israel. These are the words that Moses spoke to all Israel in the region of the Jordan, in the wilderness, on the desert plain in front of Suf. Okay, right there. That should tell everybody reading this is not a first-hand account. This is an account that has been copied and copied and copied and copied again. If you have to start this Bible chapter by saying these are the words that Moses spoke, it's not a first-hand account. And I'm going to show you how this works because nobody pays attention to this unless you've done the research. And the research that I have done in this matter points to these words being written when Israel was captive in Babylon. And I've already done another video exposing when Jesus was on the Mount of Olives, I believe it was, in Matthew chapter 5. A lot of Christians call it the Beatitudes. Jesus said, you heard it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Your research shows that that comes from the Code of Hammurabi, not Moses. The Code of Hammurabi is Babylonian law codes, not Jewish, not even Moses. Okay, so let's go to chapter 22. Start with verse 23. In case there happened to be a virgin girl engaged to a man, and a man actually found her in the city and laid down with her. Okay, stop right there. Let's go back and do this correctly so that you can see exactly what your mind has done. Quote, in case there happened to be a virgin girl engaged to a man, and a man actually found her in the city, they're in the wilderness. So what is the city? I digress. We should have all caught that. And laid down with her, you must also bring them both out to the gate of that city and pelt them with stones, and they must die. The girl for the reason that she did not scream in the city, and the man for the reason that he humiliated the wife of his fellow man. So you must clear away what is evil from your midst. Verse 25, quote, if, however, it is in the field that, wait. Do you guys see what happened? At the end of verse 24, your mind automatically filled in a quotation mark that's not there. You cannot go from verse 23 to the end of 24 without closing the quote. If the quotes are not closed, then you have to challenge the source, if the source is even complete or not. Go back and read these chapters and notice with your eye how many of these are not closed quoted. Verse 25, you start with there, quote, if, however, it is in the field, we all know how this goes. Read through that very slowly and find the closed quote. It's not there. So you go down to verse 28, quote, in case a man finds a girl, a virgin who has not been engaged. You go down to the end of verse 29, there's no closed quote. You go up to verse 30, quote, no man should take his father's wife that he may not uncover the skirt of his father. Goes to chapter 23, quote, no man there's no closed quotes. How come we never seen this before? Is this done by design because your mind is going to put something there that is not there? Just like with the subliminal images. Some people can see it, others cannot. And when it is plainly pointed out, others can see it, and still others refuse to see it. Why is that? You keep asking yourselves, why can't I wake up my Jehovah's Witness family? Ask yourselves, how did I miss the entire book of Deuteronomy not closing any sentence with a quote? How did I miss Jesus quoting John the Baptist at Luke chapter 11? How did we all miss that? You see, friends, all of our brains function differently. Some of our brains are quick to absorb these things, to identify these things, and make sense of these things. And I think that has a whole lot to do with it, is being able to make sense. Just like my mother-in-law. I see him. I don't know what it means, but I'm going to still stick with the organization. See, her mind could not make sense with what she was seeing. Any more than the fully indoctrinated Christian is going to leave scathing comments either under this video or Jane Doe's video, because your mind cannot make sense out of why these sentences, these words do not have a closed quote. Just because you can't make sense of it does not mean that it's not there. Just like the two false prophecies in Ezekiel and Jeremiah. Right out of the mouth of Yahweh. It's right there. And yet when you see it in black and white, oh, the Bible doesn't contradict itself. Actually it does. And yet, in this is why I suggested not following along in the King James Version, because they don't use quotes. It's deceptive, grave discrepancies, as the forward in my Revised Standard says. Are we getting it? Just like the video my wife put up the other day at that town meeting in New York, where the Jehovah's Witness lawyer is trying to convince the city boards to let them build their... How did I word that? Yeah, let me backtrack. See, we all know that Watchtower used to be a publishing company posing as a religion. Then they transformed into a real estate company posing as a religion. Now they're trying to put in a cult compound posing as a monastery for the clergy, posing as a media center. Think about it, friends. Think about where they're going, what they're being relegated to even using and adopting the word clergy. It's nothing but a cult compound now posing as a media center. All of us that have watched that know full well the lies coming out of those people's mouths. But yet, even when you show this directly to your family, your indoctrinated Jehovah's Witness family, they're not even going to begin to want to understand why they're now using the word clergy. They have no choice. They have no choice but to conform with that 501c3. Everybody misses one thing in this world, is how much our governments control every aspect of our lives. You know, with the current fever that's been pushed upon Americans, a lot of Americans have lost their business due to the pandemic. And there's something in here that I think everybody misses. And that was brought clearly to Kim and I's minds real recently regarding eBay and them unlisting some of our products. Because after that, we got another email from eBay encouraging us to contact our legislators and to complain regarding the restrictions that our legislators are putting on eBay. Because the government, as far as eBay is concerned, is hurting their business. Now, we all know that this was coming because in the past, the government has forced online sales outlets such as eBay and others to start collecting taxes for other states that the item is purchased from. A lot of us complain, but government's going to do what the government's going to do. But I find it extremely hypocritical on eBay's part to ask us to do this in their behalf when those idiots are the ones that shut down my business. The government didn't hurt my business, eBay. You did. Your ignorance hurt my business. Do you see how all of this crap in this world really works? See, the government controls this book through the 501c3. And the government will control your business, even though you think you have an independent private business, as long as you collect taxes for the government, as long as you have a business license. You're just an extension of corporate America. You are just an extension of the government. So the government has every right to do what they're doing because you willingly get your business license, because, you know, you can't do business without a license. Oh, by the way, when you get that 501c3, you guys training your perceptive powers? Are you able to see what's really going on and how deep our prison cell really is? Are you able to comprehend that Watchtower now has a full-blown cult compound that they're trying to put in, and they're gonna call it a media center? I can do what I can do in a little office with a camera. Why do you need a whole media center unless you are re-identifying yourself to be something that you're not? Guys, I've said it once and I'll say it again. It's not this difficult. You just have to do what the Bible says. Train your perceptive powers to distinguish between right and wrong. But the problem with that is that when you do train your perceptive powers, you're going to now be able to see the quote within a quote and realize that the Lord's Prayer is not the Lord's Prayer. It's the prayer of John the Baptist. When you read the book of Deuteronomy and you realize there are no closed quotes, then you have to recognize that part of this quotation is missing. It's not a full quotation. So you are reading supposedly the law code of Moses that can't even close the quote in the sentence structure. We've all missed it. But if you slow down and look at the words, if a girl is found in the city, what is the city? It doesn't say a city, the city. And if they're in the wilderness, then what is the city that the girl is going to? And if the girl is going to the city, then obviously they have water available and they have food available. So what's all this whining and crying about the manna from heaven or the quail or give us some water, Moses, strike the rock. And you go back and read. Go back and read. They conquered this city, they conquered that city, they conquered this city, when Moses is still very much alive in the land of Canaan. If you're conquering all these cities, as the Bible tells you, then they're not in the wilderness, are they, friends? They're not in the wilderness. To be honest, if this was happening today, say like in Washington, Portland, New York, some of the bigger cities where there's a marauding band of thieves, you'd call them for exactly what they are. But see, this is what our religious leaders has done to our minds. And we have allowed it because we have succumbed to the fear of the Roman Judeo-Christian Bible. You're going to sit here and tell me, Watchtower, you're going to sit here and tell me that this book is God's inerrant word. It's inspired. Jehovah protected his word throughout all human history, yada, yada, yada. But yet you're going to fight against the Catholic Church and the government when it was the church and the government that 66 books together. Incomplete, mind you. Because Jane Doe in another video reading in the book of Numbers said in the book the War of Jehovah, the Wars of Jehovah, and you have one or two cities quoted. Really? Quote, close quote. If you're quoting from an apocrypha, then how could that be the inerrant word of God? You're quoting from another source. When you do that, everybody, it's easy to be blindsided. It really, really is if you don't have your wits about you. And I do find it very, very questionable that the same people that sit here and say, why can't I wake up my family, but yet you go to another online minister that's indoctrinating you with the same thing. It's just got a different package on it. Okay, to finish this up, go back to chapter 91 when Lazarus is resurrected. If you're driving, don't look at the screen. If you're listening and you can put your listening device down to look at the screen, look at the screen. Here's the picture without the word sex colored in. Here it is with the word sex colored in. Everybody missed it when we studied these in the Kingdom Hall. But now that we've showed it, you can't unsee it. You know it's there. This is what your mind will do to you if you don't train your perceptive powers. And that's what this comes down to. Train your perceptive power so that when you read, even in the book of Deuteronomy, there's no closed quotes. It's been in front of us the entire time. But yet, our brains were never awoken or awakened to what this book has done to each and every one of us. So thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.